At first, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. Every night, she let him climb into bed, his body warm against hers, his breath steady as they drifted off together. It started with small touches, innocent, comforting. But then something changed. Her body began to feel different, weaker, drained. She couldn't explain it, but every morning she woke up feeling worse. And months later, when she finally discovered the shocking truth, it was nothing like she had imagined. Lily Harrison took a deep breath as she turned the key and stepped into her new apartment. The space was modest, but modern, with warm wooden floors and large windows that bathed the room in natural light. It was hers, the first home she had ever owned. After years of renting cramped spaces with roommates, she should have felt proud, excited even. But as she placed the last of her moving boxes down, a strange feeling crept over her. The silence. For the first time in years, there was no background chatter, no footsteps in the hallway, no laughter from a shared living room. Just an empty apartment and the distant hum of city traffic outside. That night, she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the silence pressing down on her. She had longed for independence, but she hadn't expected loneliness to come with it. By the next morning, she had made up her mind. She needed companionship, a new friend. A week later, Lily found herself at Riverside Animal Shelter, walking past rows of eager, barking dogs. She had always loved dogs, but had never been in a position to own one before. Now she had space. Now she could provide a home. As she moved past the kennels, she noticed a German shepherd sitting quietly in the back of his enclosure. While the other dogs barked for attention, he simply watched, his deep amber eyes meeting hers. Unreadable but calm. Lily knelt down, extending her hand. The dog hesitated, then slowly approached, sniffing her fingers before pressing his head lightly against her palm. "I'll take him," she said without hesitation. The shelter volunteer smiled. "That's Scout. He's been here for 3 months. You're giving him a real second chance." She had read that rescue dogs sometimes took weeks to adjust, but to her surprise, Scout settled in much faster than she expected. Within days, he had found his favorite spot on the couch and learned the exact time Lily came home from work. He was quiet, observant, and fiercely loyal. At night, she set up a dog bed near her bedroom door, giving him his own space. The first night, he curled up on the bed obediently, his body rising and falling with slow, steady breaths. On the third night, something changed. Lily woke up to warmth against her legs. Confused, she shifted slightly and realized Scout was on the bed. She frowned. She was sure she had left him on his bed near the door. "Scout," she murmured sleepily. The dog lifted his head, looking at her with those same calm amber eyes, before, sighing and slowly climbing off the bed, retreating back to his own spot. Lily shook her head with a small smile before drifting back to sleep. By the 5th night, Scout was back. This time, he had waited until she was fully asleep before making his move. "Seriously, Scout?" Lily groaned, rubbing her face. She should make him go back to his own bed. She should enforce the rule. But looking at him, at the way his body fit so naturally against the bed, the way his presence made the room feel safer, she just didn't have the heart to do it. "Fine," she muttered, "but no hogging the blankets." Scout gave a contented sigh, resting his head back down, and just like that, the habit was formed. At first, it was subtle. Lily would wake up feeling a little groggy, rubbing her temples as a dull headache settled at the base of her skull. Nothing too concerning, just the usual morning fog, she told herself. Maybe she needed to cut back on late-night Netflix binges. But as the days passed, the grogginess didn't fade, it worsened. She began waking up feeling drained, as though she hadn't slept at all. Her limbs felt heavier, her movements sluggish. By midday, a wave of exhaustion would hit, forcing her to lean against her desk at work, blinking hard to stay focused. Her boss even commented on it during a meeting. You okay, Lily? You look exhausted. She forced a smile. Just didn't sleep well last night. Except she had. She had gone to bed at her usual time, curled under the covers with Scout at her feet, his steady breathing lulling her to sleep. And yet, every morning, she felt worse. At first, she chalked it up to stress. Work had been demanding lately. Maybe her body was just reacting to the pressure. But then she noticed something that made her pause. Scout wasn't himself either. Normally, lively and alert, he now seemed sluggish, sleeping more during the day, moving slower when she took him on walks. He still followed her everywhere, still curled up on her bed at night. But his energy was different. And then there was the breathing. At night, Scout's breath sounded heavier, almost labored. Sometimes he let out small coughs, barely noticeable, but enough for Lily to register in her half-asleep state. Other times, he would give a low whimper, shifting restlessly before settling down again. Was he sick? Lily knelt beside him one evening, running her hands through his fur. He felt warm, but not hot. His nose was damp, his eyes clear. No fever, no immediate signs of illness. Maybe you caught a cold, buddy, she murmured, scratching behind his ears. Or maybe you're just getting used to the new place, she convinced. Herself, it was nothing serious. But when her best friend Maya saw her a few days later, she wasn't convinced. Maya Rodriguez had been Lily's best friend since college. They had seen each other through breakups, job changes, and everything in between. So when Maya walked into their usual coffee shop and stared at Lily, her brows knitting together in concern, Lily knew she was about to get an earful. You look terrible, Maya said bluntly. Lily rolled her eyes. Good morning to you too, Maya didn't smile. She took a sip of her coffee, still watching Lily like a mother about to scold her child. I'm serious. Have you looked at yourself? You've lost weight. Your skin looks pale. Are you eating properly? Lily frowned, running a hand through her hair. I guess I haven't had much of an appetite lately. Maya set her cup down with a thud. Lily, that's not normal. And the dark circles under your eyes, you look like you haven't slept in weeks. I have been sleeping, Lily muttered, stirring her latte absently. That's the weird thing. I should feel rested, but I wake up exhausted. Like bone-deep exhausted. Maya leaned forward, lowering her voice. Have you gone to a doctor? Lily scoffed. Maya, it's probably just work stress. Maya didn't look convinced. Work stress doesn't make you lose weight, feel like a zombie, and look like a damn ghost. She paused, her eyes narrowing slightly. Wait, didn't you say Scout hasn't been himself? Either. Lily hesitated. Yeah, he's been acting weird too. Sleeping more, breathing a little heavier. Maya pursed her lips. And that doesn't seem suspicious to you. You and your dog both feeling like crap. Lily's stomach twisted slightly. She hadn't thought about it like that. Sure, she had noticed Scout acting differently, but she had assumed it was just coincidence. Dogs get tired too, right? But what if it wasn't a coincidence? What if something was actually wrong? Despite Maya's concern, Lily still hesitated to make an appointment. The idea of going to a doctor, getting poked and prodded just to be told it was stress, didn't exactly sound appealing, so she tried to brush it off. She made small changes, went to bed earlier, drank more water, took Scout on extra long walks, thinking maybe fresh air would help both of them feel better. But nothing worked. If anything, she started feeling worse. Some mornings, she woke up with a dull pressure in her chest, like someone had been pressing down on it all night. Other times, her head spun when she stood up too quickly. Her exhaustion started affecting everything. She missed texts from friends. She started zoning out at work, barely making it through meetings without fighting the urge to rest her head on the desk. Even her appetite had disappeared entirely. It was as if her body was shutting down bit by bit, and Scout, he was barely moving some mornings. Instead of his usual enthusiastic stretches and tail wags when she woke up, he would stay curled up, only lifting his head slightly when she called his name. A flicker of fear settled in Lily's gut. Something was definitely wrong. One night, Lily collapsed onto the couch, utterly drained. Scout lay at her feet, unmoving, his breathing slow and heavy. She felt her own chest rise and fall in sync with his, and for a brief moment, the strangest thought crossed her mind. What if we're both sick? What if it's something in this apartment? Except Maya had been right. It was too much of a coincidence that both she and Scout had started deteriorating at the exact same time. And as she lay there, eyelids growing heavy, she swore she heard something, a faint hissing noise coming from the direction of the heater. Her heart skipped a beat. She turned her head slightly, eyes locking onto the metal vent near the floor. The apartment had central heating, something she hadn't paid much attention to. Had it always made that sound? She wasn't sure, but as she drifted into unconsciousness, one thought kept echoing in her mind. Something is wrong. Lily sat in the driver's seat, gripping the steering wheel tighter than usual as she glanced at Scout, in the back seat. He lay curled up, his head resting against the seat, his breathing slow and steady. Normally, a car ride would excite him. He'd stick his head out the window, ears flapping in the wind, tail wagging. But today, he barely reacted. She pressed her foot to the gas pedal and headed toward Dr. Angela Foster's clinic, hoping for answers. The veterinary clinic was small but well kept, the scent of disinfectant lingering in the air as Lily walked through, the glass doors with Scout by her side. The receptionist, a woman in her early 50s with kind eyes, smiled warmly. "Hey there, Lily and Scout," she said. "Dr. Foster will see you right away." Dr. Angela Foster was a tall woman in her early 40s with sharp green eyes and an air of calm confidence. She had a no-nonsense approach to her work, something Lily appreciated. She didn't sugarcoat things, but she also never made pet owners panic unnecessarily. As she entered the room, she gave Lily a small nod. "What's going on with Scout?" Lily let out a breath she didn't realize she had been holding. "He's been sleeping more, less energy, sometimes breathing heavier than usual. And I don't know. Something just feels off." Dr. Foster knelt beside Scout, running her hands gently along the dog's body, feeling for anything abnormal. Scout barely reacted, which made Lily's stomach twist. "Has he been eating normally?" Foster asked. Lily hesitated. "Mostly, but not as much as before. And he's just not himself." The vet nodded, continuing her exam. She checked Scout's eyes, ears, gums, listened to his heartbeat, took his temperature. The room was quiet except for the steady tick, tick, tick of the wall clock. Finally, Foster stood up, her brows furrowed slightly. "Scout shows signs of mild toxicity," she said. Lily's stomach dropped. "Toxicity? From what?" "I don't know yet," Foster admitted. "His vitals are stable, but his fatigue, sluggishness, and minor respiratory changes suggest low-level poisoning. It's not severe. If it were, he'd be much worse by now. But something in his system isn't right." Lily felt a cold wave of dread wash over her. She had been worried about Scout, but what really unnerved her was the fact that she felt the same. "Way!" Her hands tightened into fists. "I've been feeling sick too," she blurted out. Dr. Foster's head snapped up. "What do you mean?" "I've been exhausted for weeks," she admitted. "Waking up more tired than when I went to bed. Headaches, weakness, just drained. And it's been getting worse. But Scout and I both started feeling bad around the same time." Dr. Foster narrowed her eyes. She leaned back slightly, arms crossed over her chest as she considered her words. "That's not a coincidence," she said finally. "You and Scout share the same space. If both of you are experiencing symptoms, it's likely something environmental." Lily's heartbeat quickened. "You mean something in my apartment?" Dr. Foster nodded. "It's possible." She tapped her fingers against the side of the exam table, thinking. If it was food poisoning, I'd expect digestive issues. If it was seasonal allergies, the symptoms would come and go. But this sounds more like prolonged exposure to something. Lily swallowed. The idea of something in her home, something unseen, something quietly making both her and Scout sick, made her skin prickle. "What should I do?" she asked, voice quieter now. "For Scout, I'll run some blood tests to check for any toxins," Foster said. "But for you should see a doctor. Get blood work done. If your symptoms match his, that could give us a huge clue about what's happening." Lily nodded, though the thought of going to the doctor made her uneasy. She had assumed her exhaustion was stress, had convinced herself it would go away if she just got more rest. But if it wasn't, Lily sat in the cold, sterile office, her hands resting in her lap, fingers twisting together as she waited. The faint hum of fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, mixing with the distant murmurs of nurses beyond the door. She felt lightheaded, her body heavy with exhaustion. But at least she was here, finally doing something about it. Dr. Marcus Chen, a middle-aged man with a calm, reassuring presence, walked in holding a folder. He sat across from her, flipping through the pages before finally meeting her gaze. "Your blood work came back mostly normal," he said, his voice even. Lily blinked. "Mostly?" He exhaled softly, tapping his pen against the folder. "You're showing some signs of oxygen deprivation and mild toxicity exposure, but nothing immediately alarming. Your red blood cell count is slightly off, and there are markers of prolonged fatigue. Have you recently been exposed to chemicals or lived near an industrial site?" She frowned. "No, just my apartment." Dr. Chen nodded. "I'm not saying this is life-threatening, but something is affecting your body's ability to function properly. Your symptoms, chronic fatigue, dizziness, nausea, difficulty concentrating, are consistent with low-level poisoning. It could be something environmental." Lily's stomach twisted. "You mean something in my home is making me sick?" "It's a possibility," he said. "Have you noticed any strange smells? Gas? Mold? Anything unusual?" She thought about it. At first, nothing came to mind, but then, Scout. Dr. Chen must have noticed her reaction because he leaned forward slightly. "Lily, I strongly recommend having your apartment checked. This could be something as simple as faulty ventilation or a gas leak. It's better to be safe than sorry." The moment she stepped into her apartment, a strange uneasiness settled over her. She had been living here for months, but now, knowing what she did, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Scout, who had been staying at Maya's house for the night, wasn't there to greet her. The silence felt oppressive without him. The space felt colder, emptier. Then she remembered what had been nagging at her. Scout had been fixated on certain areas, specifically the kitchen near the gas stove and her bedroom corner near the heater. She crouched down, running her fingers along the edge of the gas line, pressing her palm against the vent. Nothing felt abnormal. No strong smell of gas. Nothing obvious. But she wasn't going to take any chances. Pulling out her phone, she scrolled through her contacts and called the first person that came to mind. "Hello?" A deep voice answered after 2 rings. "Hi, is this Ryan Tucker?" "Yeah, speaking." "This is Lily Harrison," she said quickly. "Maya gave me your number. She said you're a home safety inspector." "That's right," he confirmed. "What's going on?" Lily took a breath. "I need my apartment checked. Now." Ryan arrived within the hour, a tall, no-nonsense man in his late 30s. He wore a navy work shirt with his company logo embroidered on the chest, his expression serious as he stepped inside, carrying a black toolkit and a portable gas detector. "Tell me everything," he said. Lily quickly summarized the past few weeks. Her exhaustion, Scout's symptoms, the doctor's suggestion about environmental toxins. Ryan listened carefully, nodding. "I'll run a full check. Let's start with the basics. Carbon monoxide, gas leaks, mold. If something's wrong here, we'll find it." He pulled out his gas detector, a small handheld device with a digital screen, and walked toward the kitchen first. Lily followed closely behind, heart pounding. Ryan ran the scanner along the stove, the gas lines, and the wall. Nothing. All clear here, he muttered. No leaks. Lily exhaled, relieved, but also more confused than before. If it wasn't gas, then what? Ryan moved to the bedroom next, kneeling by the heater vent. He placed the sensor against the grate and waited. The device beeped softly, the numbers on the screen flickering. Then a sharp, prolonged beep. Ryan's head snapped up, his brows furrowed as he read the screen. "Lily," he said carefully. "You've got a problem." Her breath caught. "What is it?" He turned the screen toward her. Carbon monoxide, low but constant exposure. Lily's stomach dropped. She had heard of carbon monoxide poisoning before, people dying in their sleep because of silent leaks, entire families succumbing to the odorless, colorless gas. Ryan stood up, his expression serious. "This explains everything. Your symptoms, Scout's fatigue, carbon monoxide poisoning happens over time. If it's a slow leak, that's why you've been feeling worse every day instead of all at once." Lily's knees felt weak. "How bad is it?" He adjusted the settings on his device, scanning the air near the vent again. "It's not at deadly levels, but it's definitely above what's safe. Long-term exposure can cause major health issues, neurological damage, organ stress, even death if it builds up." Her hands clenched into fists. "I had no idea." Ryan's jaw tightened. "Most people don't. That's the danger. It's invisible." Lily felt a chill run down her spine. All this time, she had been breathing it in, night after night. And Scout had been suffering too. If she hadn't gotten checked, if she hadn't called Ryan, how much longer would it have taken before it was too late? She swallowed hard. "What do I do?" Ryan was already pulling out his phone. "First, open all your windows. Get fresh air in here. I'm calling a specialist to shut down your heating system and fix the leak. Until then, do not sleep here." That night, as Lily stayed at Maya's house with Scout curled beside her on the guest bed, she thought about how close she had come to disaster, but there was something else that had been nagging at her, something she had almost forgotten in all the chaos. Scout's behavior that night, weeks ago, when he had tried to pull her out of bed. She had been so exhausted, so weak, that she had barely registered it at the time. But now, thinking back, she realized what had happened. Scout had sensed the danger. He had tried to wake her, tried to get her away from the source of the poison. He had been trying to save her life. "You knew, didn't you?" she whispered, scratching behind his ears. Scout looked up at her with those same calm, amber eyes, tail wagging softly. "You tried to warn me. If it hadn't been for him, if he hadn't been acting strangely, if he hadn't been showing symptoms too, would she have ever figured it out? Would she still be lying in that bed, wasting away, until one day she simply didn't wake up?" The thought terrified her. The next day, the heating specialist arrived. Lily stood beside Ryan, arms wrapped around herself, as the technician, a gruff, older man named Bill, knelt beside the heater vent, dismantling a section of the piping. He worked silently for a few minutes before letting out a low whistle. "Well, there's your problem," he muttered. Ryan crouched beside him. "What are we looking at?" Bill pointed to a small crack in the heat exchanger. "This thing's been leaking CO for a while. Not a huge amount, but enough to make you sick over time. Surprised it wasn't caught during the last inspection." Lily's stomach churned. I never got it inspected when I moved in." Ryan shot her a look. "Lily," she groaned, running a hand through her hair. I know. I should have, but I never thought." "Most people don't," Bill cut in, wiping his hands on a rag. "You're lucky you caught it before it got worse. I've seen cases where people don't wake up." Lily shivered. She didn't need the reminder. She already knew how close she had come. Bill continued his work, replacing the damaged parts and sealing the leak properly. Ryan, meanwhile, installed a carbon monoxide detector near the bedroom and another one in the hallway. "This thing will go off if CO levels start rising again," he explained, tightening the last screw. "No more guessing. If it beeps, you get out." Lily nodded, feeling a wave of gratitude wash over her. "Thank you, Ryan," she said softly. He gave her a lopsided grin. "Hey, I like keeping my clients alive." Lily stayed with Maya for another 2 nights while her apartment aired out. By the time she finally returned, the difference was immediate. She woke up the next morning feeling refreshed, her body lighter than it had in weeks, the crushing fatigue, the headaches, the dizziness, gone. She stretched in bed, inhaling deeply, marveling at the simple absence of exhaustion. This was how she was supposed to feel. She hadn't realized just how bad it had gotten until now, as she sat up. Movement at the foot of the bed caught her eye. Scout. He was awake too, fully alert. His ears perked, tail thumping against the mattress. His eyes sparkled with energy, a stark contrast to the lifeless gaze he had worn for weeks. "Morning, buddy," she murmured, reaching out to scratch his head. Scout let out a playful huff and suddenly jumped off the bed, trotting toward the door, his body bouncing with excitement. Lily laughed, feeling her chest lighten for the first time. In what felt like forever, Scout was back, she was back, and it felt incredible. Later that day, she sat on the floor of her living room, tossing a ball for Scout. He sprinted after it, skidding slightly before pouncing on his prize, tail wagging furiously. Watching him, Lily felt a lump form in her throat. If it hadn't been for him, if he hadn't been acting strangely, if he hadn't been sniffing around the gas lines, if he hadn't tried to wake her that night, would she have ever figured it out? Would she still be lying in bed, wasting away, until one day she simply didn't wake up? The thought terrified her. She set the ball down and called Scout over. He trotted up to her, panting happily, and flopped down beside her with a satisfied grunt. Lily wrapped her arms around him, burying her face in his fur. "Thank you," she whispered. Scout didn't understand the words, but he leaned into her touch, licking her cheek with a happy wag of his tail. He had saved her life, and she would never, ever take that for granted again. The next day, Lily pulled out her laptop and started typing. She posted on social media, telling her story in honest detail, how she had ignored the signs, how she had blamed stress, how she had almost died in her sleep without ever realizing it. If you're reading this and you don't have a carbon monoxide detector in your home, get one right now. It might just save your life. She attached a photo of Scout, captioned, "This dog saved my life. Pay attention to your pets. Sometimes they know things before we do." Within hours, the post had hundreds of shares. Messages flooded in. Friends texted her saying they had just ordered CO detectors. Strangers commented about how they had never even thought about checking their heating systems. For the first time, Lily felt like something good had come out of this nightmare. She had almost lost everything, but now she was making sure no one else did. A week later, Lily went to the animal shelter where she had first adopted Scout, not to adopt another dog, but to donate. She dropped off a box of CO detectors, handing them to the shelter manager. "Give one to every new adopter," she said. "Make sure they know." The woman looked at her, surprised, then smiled warmly. "Thank you, Lily. That's a great idea." As Lily walked back to her car, Scout trotting beside her, she felt lighter. What had once been a terrifying experience had now turned into something meaningful. She had survived, and because of Scout, she was making sure others would too. That night, as Lily settled into bed, she glanced at the carbon monoxide detector near the door. A small green light blinked steadily, assuring her that the air was safe. Scout, as always, curled up beside her, his body warm against her legs. She smiled, reaching down to scratch his ears. "You're still sleeping here, huh?" she teased. Scout let out a contented sigh and stretched out further, claiming more space than necessary. Lily chuckled. "Fine, you win." As she closed her eyes, she felt something she hadn't in weeks. Peace. She was safe. Scout was safe. And she would never ignore the small signs again. Because sometimes those small signs, they save lives. The days after Lily's recovery felt strangely different. Everything seemed clearer, as if she had been walking through a fog for weeks and had only just stepped into the sunlight. Her energy had returned completely, her mind sharper, her body lighter. She could breathe deeply without feeling like she was carrying a weight on her chest. And Scout was himself again, bounding across the apartment with boundless enthusiasm, his eyes bright, his tail wagging constantly, watching him run through the park, chasing after squirrels and barking excitedly at passing dogs. Lily felt a sense of overwhelming gratitude. She had come so close to missing this, to missing everything. It had taken one conversation with Ryan for reality to truly sink in. "You don't realize how lucky you are," he had told her. "Most people don't figure out carbon monoxide poisoning until it's too late. It's called the silent killer for a reason." Lily shuddered. "I don't even want to think about what would have happened if Scout hadn't been acting strange." Ryan leaned against his truck, arms crossed. "You should tell people about this. How many of your friends even have CO detectors?" Lily hesitated. She hadn't thought about that. "Probably not enough," she admitted. "You could have died, Lily," Ryan said bluntly. "And if you hadn't gotten out when you did, Scout would have gone with you." That thought hit her like a punch to the gut. She looked down at Scout, who was sitting at her feet, looking up at her, with his usual quiet devotion. She had almost lost him. Or worse, he had almost lost her. Lily clenched her fists. She couldn't change what happened, but maybe she could prevent it from happening to someone else. That night, Lily sat on her couch, Scout curled beside her. She ran her fingers through his fur absent-mindedly, feeling his steady warmth, his slow rhythmic breathing. She had always loved him. From the moment she saw him at the shelter, she knew he was special. But now he was more than just a dog. He was her lifeline. "Guess I owe you one," she murmured, scratching behind his ears. Scout gave her a contented sigh, shifting closer, pressing against her side. Lily smiled. She had bought this apartment hoping to build a home, and now, with Scout at her side, she realized she already had everything she needed. Lily had learned a lesson she would never forget. Sometimes the things we can't see are the most dangerous. But through it all, one thing remained clear. Love protects. Scout had saved her life, not by barking at danger or dragging her out of a fire, but by simply being there, by showing her what she had overlooked. And isn't that what love does? It watches over us. It warns us when we're too blind to see. It stays by our side even when we don't realize we need saving. This wasn't just a story about survival. It was about faith, trust, and the quiet miracles that happen every day, sometimes in the form of a loyal dog, sometimes in the kindness of a stranger, and sometimes in the whispers of divine protection guiding us even when we don't understand. Why? What do you think of Lily and Scout's story? Have you ever had a moment when an animal, a friend, or even something unexplainable protected you from unseen danger? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if this story touched you, consider sharing it with someone who might need the reminder. Life is fragile, but love, true love, always finds a way to save us. God bless you, and may you always be surrounded by the kind of love that watches over you, even in the dark.